Okay, I know it's very difficult to get back after lunch, second day, Saturday. It's such a beautiful afternoon out there. But let me just take this opportunity to congratulate all of you for this passionate and impressive work that you're doing on teaching organized crime. And of course, Ugi, for being the godfather to so many courses. You should be so proud that you have so many godchildren all around the globe. Spreading the wisdom and the know-how. So congratulations. Let me also say that all this has started and a spiritual father is behind all this, the late Dimitris Vlasis, and we are so blessed to have his legacy, all this work that was done, and also this work that's coming through his children and his followers. So without further ado, let's listen to what Ioanni has to say. Thank you, Ioanni.
Thank you very much. Get the slide up. The gap analysis, second to last. Wonderful. So good afternoon, everyone. As Maria said, I know this is the last panel, so I won't keep you that long. The purpose of this panel, and more so this presentation, is to provide the opportunity at such an ideal setting and occasion, and with such great minds all together in one place, to spark a discussion focused on the teaching needs in the region. And perhaps perfectly placed to facilitate such a discussion is the GI's upcoming publication titled A Big Picture, a gap analysis of research on illicit economies in the Western Balkans, written by our very own Sasha Georgievich. I must say, all of you are quite lucky to be here today because you'll get a sneak peek into the key findings and the results of this great publication. So let's get started. What is the purpose of a gap analysis? So, as you can see here, the purpose of this gap analysis was to map existing knowledge, identify trends and emerging issues, and discover research gaps on illicit economies in the Western Balkans. The point is to strategically identify gaps in the current understandings of organized crime in the region, and to suggest further areas of work that could help close these gaps and better understand illicit practices. And last but not least, the clear and explicit detection of gaps, which is a necessary step in creating a research plan, including decisions about funding and the design of new studies. In regards to methodology, the focus was on researchers' efforts to explore criminal groups' actions to profit from illicit activities, for which there is a market by using violence, monopoly or corruption, and the institutional and civil society reactions to organized crime and corruption through law enforcement and prevention action and strategies. A systematic literature review of published research papers from 2017 to 2022 was conducted as a scientific tool to collect, review, summarize, and communicate the research. The systematic literature review consisted of identifying illicit economies related research papers by searching the Web of Science, a database that provides reference and citation data from academic journals, conference proceedings, and other academic documents, websites of civil society organizations, police services, interior ministries, and regional initiatives in the Western Balkans. And last but not least, databases of scientific articles and PhD theses. Thus, as you can see, it was a quantitative study which aimed to map and assess the existing intellectual property and specify research subjects to develop knowledge further. In the next phase, to go more into the methodology, the systematic literature review findings were checked, confirmed, and updated by interviewing scholars, civil society researchers, and activists, journalists, active and retired criminal justice professionals, members of parliament, anti-corruption officials and experts, people from the business sector, and representatives of international organizations. So it was a very thorough study. So as I can see very clearly, all of you are on the edge of your seats, so I won't keep you waiting much longer in regards to the results of this study. Researchers in the Western Balkans illicit economies published more than 500 reports from 2017 to 2022. Most research was on the ability of states to fight corruption, crime, and organized crime and corruption. Less research exists on criminal markets and criminal actors, and only every fifth publication is a comparative analysis where 3 or more countries were included in the Western Balkans. You can see on the little boxes analytically like what it took to extract 500 publications. So the gap analysis analyzed 584 entries on the Web of Science using 84 keywords. 217 civil society organization websites and 43 universities for PhD thesis, 37 academic journals, and you can see the rest on the slide. As you can see on the graph here, the most publications were published in 2020, 109, and the highest growth was in 2018, with 40% more publications published in comparative to 2017. And the biggest decline was in 2019, where 31% less publications were published than 2018. In 2022, until August, 55 research papers were published. So it's on pace to match or surpass 2021. The gap analysis found that different stakeholders focus their research on varying areas. And more specifically, scholars mainly cover national policies and laws. Civil society monitors, on the other hand, focus on the implementation of national policies and laws, the judicial system and detention, and law enforcement performance. National and foreign governments largely deal with law enforcement work and drug trafficking, while international and regional organizations focus on police and prosecution reform. And last but not least, investigative media concentrate their work on specific corruption and drug trafficking cases for obvious reasons. Some of the main conclusions that stem from this gap analysis were that research is the most impactful when it comes from outside the region. More specifically, the research of international organizations and foreign countries like the European Union or the United States has the most significant policy impact. Their work is almost the only guide for policy, for changing legislative strategies and institutional settings to fight organized crime and corruption. There has also been an increased interest by citizens and politicians in investigative journalists' work, which is an important step to increase and give motivation to conduct more research. The expert community wants to hear and read more from civil society and academia. Researchers mostly explore criminals rooted in or from state apparatus by exploring corrupt practices. Then drug trafficking and human smuggling are 2 specific criminal markets that are key for research and governments to deal with. So there's been a lot of focus on those criminal markets. Whilst, regrettably, the inquiry on cyber, environmental, and financial crime is marginal. The main gaps identified by the study are that foreign criminal actors and viewing organized crime and corruption through a gender lens is out of research focus. Furthermore, regrettably, the partnership between analysts from state and non-state institutions and organizations is insufficient, and regional perspective on illicit economies is lacking. And last but not least, we all know that donors are usually largely responsible for driving the research agenda and setting priorities that researchers must follow when applying for funds. And yeah, so some of the main gaps that were identified by the study and the main conclusions is that in the future, researchers have to increase cooperation between each other and work towards pinpointing criminal actors, increase the exploration of crime in the realms of cyber, financial, and nature, and researchers in general must endeavor to discover solutions for practical prevention strategies and efficacious methodologies to organize crime and corruption. Global and regional trends, such as the war in Ukraine, Open Balkan and Belt and Road initiatives, and migration policy of countries close to conflicts like Turkey, should be reflected to greater extents in their research. Thank you very, very much for listening. And I look forward to hearing thoughts and suggestions and so on and so forth. Thank you.
Okay. Do you have the question? Right. Okay. because we started with the presentation of the gap analysis, but also the main topic is the discussion of the teaching needs in the region. And based on that, we can open the floor to discuss. And what I found, because most of the representative here are from the different universities and in the region especially, and when we take into consideration that, probably will be helpful for us to discuss what are our needs or which problem we have during the teaching at the university. Based on that, we are right now in in the Greece, which is from which come the main Socratic method, which is used most of the university, especially the United States, and also based on some countries which come from ex-Yugoslavia. Some of them, they are part here, and they influence it much more from the ex-cathedra, the way how they give the lectures and stuff like that. I would like to hear from you. What is your experience? Did you challenge with this kind of two methods, which will be the good to use? We know the Socratic method, like we can hear the students, we can discuss together with the problems, and especially the case law, because of the common law system in US and other state like is Canada and Australia and Great Britain used, is totally different with the European continental system. But I would like to open the floor and who have their opinion to share with us. Very well, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Very interesting presentation. I think the one thing that sticks out to me is English language, right? There's such a dichotomy between publications that are in English academic journals and the rest of the world, and that should not be the case, but it is the case. And so I'm curious how you could control for that in this study, or how others think we can think about that. This isn't just a Balkans issue or a Southeastern Europe issue. This is, yeah, working in Brazil, this is a huge issue where they have greater linkages with French academic publications, but not English ones. So that's a thought. The other thing is unexpected findings. Was there anything that jumped out as unexpected? So yeah, that's me.
I mean, I guess one way around that issue would probably focus on gathering and creating a team of researchers and academics that all sort of have one main goal, and then using their skill base and their knowledge of different languages, they can successfully, widen the search and cover more languages when doing the gap analysis. I think that's the solution that jumps into my mind, but I don't know if if you perhaps have any thoughts about that.
Yeah. I have a question during your presentation, based on what you found the results. I would like to know which method you use to find the articles. If the articles this is related that only in English, or you will find also from the other language, local language. They used some scholars in different countries in Southeast Europe. And if they see you in an aspect of quality, in which platform they are published, or just everywhere, doesn't matter where are they published, these articles?
No, I mean, as I mentioned in my at the beginning of the presentation, there was like a systematic literature review that was conducted, and it wasn't basically just random searching the extended internet, basically. So they limited the search to the Web of Science, which is a database that provides reference and citation data from academic journals, conference proceedings, and other academic documents. And then also, as I said, they like 217 civil society websites were searched. And, we would like to hope that there's a certain quality standard that is maintained throughout all these organizations. And as in regards to the language, I know it's sort of embarrassing that I don't know the clear answer to this, but I'm almost certain that it wasn't just English. that was, yeah. Mm. Right. Mm.
This research, but AI-based literature review is coming up very fast. I know a group of people in Japan, and if I get the information, I'll share. They are using thousands of literature. You don't have to go to website individually. AI will go. They are doing multiple language search, AI-based again. If I get the information, I'll share, because I know a group of people in Japan, they are doing it. So one of them is also supervising our master thesis. So I'll get back to him. And if I have some information, I'll share. Thank you. That's the next generation research.
Please use the mic.
I don't know how it is in other countries, but I know that, for instance, in Croatia, we have this Crosby. It's like Google. I mean, we are obliged to have Google Scholar. And then we have the Croatian database where all the professor or scientists have to be registered. So you have to go there. So potentially, I don't know how it is in other Western Balkan countries, if that exists. I don't know if you have, but if you do that, that would be useful, because maybe Web of Science is not something that many scholars are producing in the region. So it doesn't mean that you do not have more articles in other journals. For instance, Hein Online, which is not brilliant, but for us, for instance, to advance, it's fine to have a publication that is listed in Hein Online. So this is good just to know before literature review in region what is relevant, maybe to check. But for Japan, it's excellent. Yeah, thank you.
I think whatever the case might be, I think this is a great work that's been done. And to my mind, it is valid research-wise. Okay, there may be a limitation to the effect of the language, but okay, it's there, okay? But it is great findings, and it does have policy implications, and it does make great recommendations that can be taken further. So I think we should acknowledge that, and we should encourage this kind of research that maybe it can be built on, but I think that's wonderful work.
Right.
I mean,
And just to add to that, I mean, obviously all these points are noted, and there's always ways to improve the study and the methodology behind the study. But at the end of the day, a gap analysis that researched and went through all these sources and articles can make some quite evidence-based conclusions. So obviously there would be the potential that there are some articles contained somewhere else, but the general conclusions and the general ideas and the gaps identified by the studies are valid to a large extent.
and it's a contribution to knowledge, which is great.
Yeah.
Provided, as you say, that the conclusions are valid, and that even if preliminary or whatever, based on those particular aspects and things that were found and they were consulted. However, from the results, there is something that is a little bit worrying, that basically quite a lot depends on the funding. And quite a lot, the funding comes from outside sources, which are not, so for me, that is a little bit worrying, because it means that at the end, researchers are somewhat more or less obliged to follow the wish of the donors. And that I don't know how much can reflect on the real needs of the local population and of the local academic community.
That is the problem that has been faced for years, right? Yeah.
On that point, Eduardo, we now have ethical committees, though, And when you submit a paper for publication, you need to disclose whether there has been funding and who was the sponsor for that funding. So academic journals do take that into consideration when you send in for publication. So I think that's probably something that you need to consider. I don't know whether a statistical model has been used in the analysis, and maybe NVivo, that's something that you could consider with the researchers, because NVivo can identify and make this paper also into qualitative findings. Yeah.
When we speak about the literature, one idea come to my mind. I'm a co-editor of one series that was established this year, which is called Gender Perspectives in Law. And for 23, I'm sorry, we will have two collections of papers. But what we can do, if you're interested, for 2024, we can have one book dedicated to organized crime and gender. And what I've seen from these findings, that gender dimension is lacking. So we can be, in a way, pioneers in this area. So if you're interested, please come to me in order to count how many of you are interested and what topics you would like to cover, and then I can open the call and we can discuss it further.
Excellent initiative.
This is excellent. If I can add something, if I'm not wrong, among one of the major, not only programs, but trend or directions that I have seen, is that the gender dimension has become also extremely important in UNODC. So probably to link it also, I don't know if it is just for funding or for further elaboration with some of the colleagues in UNODC, especially if we take this initiative of focusing not for this year, but for the next one on gender, could be good already to start contacting the colleagues there who are responsible for this gender perspective, whether it is just for violence against women or whatever other subject, but in general, there are also resolutions of ECOSOC as recommended by the Commission on Crime Prevention and Criminal Justice, exactly on the gender dimension in the criminal justice system. So I think that in addition to the decision, there is also a specific mandate that the UN Secretariat has received from the international community to focus on this.
Great. And I just missed to say that this is for Springer. So it's in English and it's widely distributed. So it's another way to present our work.
This idea is really terrific. And I think that we should develop a methodology and every one of us from different countries just to follow the same methodology and to have this book comparable with the data that will be comparable from one country to another. It will be in English and we will overcome the language obstacles. So terrific idea. I mean,
does it need to be a book or would it? Right, because GI runs an open access journal, so that's a possibility. So, oh, okay, right. So it's already decided. Okay.
Okay, that's cool. We ended we ended up discussing gender, which is wonderful. But I think it's 3 o'clock and Ugi has placed this time frame that we got to wrap it up by 3:30.
Well, if you wish to, I mean, depends.
Yeah.
Or...
Well, oh yeah, I mean, you can take further this discussion on your own. You know, go and have a coffee afterwards. So Ugi, shall we leave the floor up to you and to wrap up? Yeah.
Uber address, this is, I mean, really.
Yeah.
I must say that these requests from Sunchana has already closed the meeting because Uber address is very important to know. But anyway, I think we have come to the end of this, what we called scientific colloquium, which I truly believe was much more than scientific. It was truly a colloquium and a nice conversation among colleagues and friends about issues that we are all dealing with. I think that we have, each time when we meet, and this is, we discover something new. And each time that we meet, we hear about different colleagues doing new things, developing new courses, approaches, advancements have been made. I think, often we think about Southeastern European region as backward. It is not in many aspects. It has a lot to offer. Usually we talk about our cultural diversity as if it is the only wealth that we can offer. No, we have innovation, we have good quality science, we have good research, we have many good initiatives that we can offer and share much broader than within the region. And I think one of the problems that we are facing is how to share it above and beyond the region, but at the same time, to continue with these efforts to share our experiences and our knowledge within the region. So networking is a nice phrase which has to be not institutionalized, but in certain sense regulated. So gender that Ivana has suggested is a good topic to get together for those that are doing it. We will continue with some of the networking initiatives such as Southern European Anti-Corruption, ACAD, or Balkan Criminology. These are all very important fora. And I must say that we have here really, really great support from UNODC. I think we should appreciate it. And then obviously from two international organizations that have co-organized, co-sponsored this meeting. John will talk about GI. I can only say on behalf of EPLO that we are very, very happy that we were able to host you, to welcome you here, to enjoy your presence. And we hope that we will continue being in touch. We still have to think about organizing something that I would like. I'm dreaming about this Southeastern European platform of exchange of information and knowledge. Something that is where we can all, contribute freely, without too much editing and worrying how it looks like in the languages we, and this is probably something that we should think maybe in GI talk about possibility to help establish this platform of networking. So I think to help to support networking and exchange of this. So this is also on behalf of President Professor Spiros Flogiatis and staff of EPLO. I would really like to thank you for coming and to thank you very much for your high quality contribution to this colloquium. And then I'll pass the word to Dimitris.
I think that Ugi summarized the works of the last 2 days in a perfect way. As a director of the European Center for Criminal Justice of Pantheon University of Athens, I must say that it was a pleasure and an honor to co-host and co-organize this event. It was so nice seeing you again here in Athens, Greece. It is a good venue. We pooled expertise and friendship. And these are resources that are very useful for future academic actions. Whether it is something like gender perspective, which is very sexy, and that's why it's financed and funded very broadly, actually. I must say I'm sad that other aspects of law don't enjoy attention. It has to do with the European Union, to be very frank. It has to do with politics, to be very frank. This is it. It is the left-right struggle that we witness in Europe. So there is an agenda, and this agenda must be served through research as well, dear friends and dear colleagues. But we must also be smart in our choices and in our topics, and we shouldn't, be afraid of sexy topics, which will allow through funding a closer cooperation, which will allow further research in other equally, exactly, actually more important topics than this. So it is with great pleasure that we hosted this event, and I look forward to continuing our cooperation. It was a great pleasure that we could do this in memoriam of Dimitri Vlasis. It was a great honor. And a great privilege to have members of his family among ourselves who are good friends and extended family, academic family of ours. And having said that, I'm looking forward to seeing you all again, whether this is Greece, EPLO, or another event. So thank you very much for being here with us.
Okay, I'm going to be very quick. I see somebody fanning themselves up the front, which is an indicator that I think everyone wants to get out into the sun. So I'm not going to stand as a barrier to that. I want to reiterate the thanks I gave at the start of this session to EPLO. I'll say it correctly this time. Also to Ugi. This wouldn't have happened without Ugi. I think we owe a huge debt of gratitude for all the work that he's done, building the network around the region. Dimitri, since the dinner on the first night, your hospitality has been exceptional. It's been really great getting to know you as well. And then to Yanis, to the team, I know one of them isn't here, but thank you very much for all of the organization. And then to everyone, students. So I've learned, yeah. So it's been great getting to know everyone. From a GI perspective, you haven't heard the last of us. I think we will be part of these discussions. It's nice to have made new friends. So let's round it on that. Let's go have a beer and let's go enjoy the sunlight.
Thank you.